Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and I just watched the second episode of Loki. I actually had to watch it in parts because I literally fell asleep watching it late last night. So that's my biggest problem with the show so far. It is kind of boring, especially for a universe that is supposed to be about superheroes and action scenes and fantasy. Most of this show so far is just people walking through corridors, just talking and not a lot of things happening. And I'm not demanding constant action scenes, but I do want something to be taking place. There should be some kind of interesting adventure or something. And yet most of the show so far is just people sitting in offices and walking through corridors and just talking and very few things actually happening. So that's the biggest problem so far. And the first episode was at least interesting because it established a lot of new things, a lot of science fiction ideas, so I thought there was a lot of potential, and yet this episode, the second episode, added very few new ideas, and it didn't yet answer any of the big questions which remain. At least they did ask some of the questions. There was a scene when Loki started kind of questioning about the past and the future, where all of this is going, all of that, and yet he didn't get any answers. It's all classified. And I thought the questions were interesting, so it's annoying we didn't get any answers at all. Maybe we will later, we'll wait and see. So there was very little new information that was interesting given to us in this episode, and the only scene I did like was when Loki figured out that it's possible to hide from the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, by hiding in places that are about to be destroyed in a big disaster, because that way no matter what you do, even if you interact with the people there, it doesn't change the timeline because all of them get killed before any of them can escape that area. And so if you go to those places that are about to be completely wiped out, then they cannot detect you basically. What is a little bit problematic with all of this is that Loki is the only one who figured this out. So this agency, which existed basically forever because it exists across all of time, and they have what appears to be infinite amount of offices. They didn't explain where this place exactly is, meaning physically. Is it on a planet? Is it inside some space station or some pocket dimension which is entirely filled with offices? They never really explained that, and where they are on the timeline. Maybe they are outside of time, outside the universe, but they never really show it or explain it, so it's one of those unanswered questions. And also from the point of view of these people in this agency, how long have they been working there? Are they immortal? Are they clones? Are there numerous copies of them? They never really explain any of these details, but presumably the agency existed for a very long time, and their only job is to keep an eye on the timeline and to hunt down these variants and all of that. And yet they never figured out, none of them ever figured out, that it's possible to hide from them in the areas right before a big disaster. None of them ever thought about that, so that makes all of them look kind of stupid. That's the big problem with this. But the idea itself is good, even though I can still nitpick it. For example, why do they only go to Earth disasters? If they're keeping eye on the entire universe, that's what they said, then how come they never go to other planets, only to Earth all the time? So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. I guess it's budget restraints. They simply cannot afford to show us many alien planets, but they don't have to show a lot. Like, show a little bit, do it with, especially with CGI, which is cheap. Like, they can do it a little bit, and yet they only go to Earth disasters in the past. So I thought it was a missed opportunity. Why not show something cool, some kind of other planet? They even did that in old science fiction shows with just a green screen. Just show some kind of painting, just one picture of some alien landscape, and show some huge meteor hitting an alien planet or something. You can do it a little bit, and yet they didn't. So it feels kind of cheap in my opinion. They only ever go to the past of Earth specifically for some reason, so that annoyed me. And also, I'm not sure I buy this idea that you can do literally anything in the disaster area and it won't affect the future. Because, for example, one of the scenes they show them going into the past to Pompeii, to where the volcano destroyed the whole city, and Loki is deliberately interacting to demonstrate that nothing he does will change the timeline. And yet keep thinking, they can find the remnants of the people who got buried in the lava there and all of that. We can actually find their remains. But if Loki changed the past and people moved around differently, maybe we'll find these remains in a slightly different place. It can still cause small changes in the future. Maybe it will change the daily routine of some archaeologist, and then he'll go around differently, and he might cause a chain reaction that will change the timeline in the future. So I'm not sure I buy this idea that you can do literally anything. I think it will only work if everything in the entire area gets destroyed so completely that you can't even find any remains of anything later, then maybe it will make sense. So I think Pompeii is not a good example of that, because we can and do still find remains of people, and it's even on the news. Maybe someone will find it interesting and will read an article on it, and it will delay his schedule of the day by a few minutes because he was interested in reading the article about the archaeologists digging up the remains of someone in that place. So it will change his whole timeline of the day. So it might delay him for a few minutes, and it will cause a chain reaction that changes everything for many other people as well. So it might build up to some big change in the timeline. So I'm not sure I buy this whole idea that they showed us, but at least it is an interesting science fiction idea. So that's the best thing about this episode, in my opinion. As for Loki himself, trying already to be cunning and sneaking and planning all kinds of things that seem to be beyond his ability, like he's already planning to overthrow the timekeepers and to take their place. I guess in the end, my prediction, I talked a little bit in my previous video, that it will turn out that the timekeepers are basically big villains who manipulate all of time so that it will go by their plan, whatever they want to achieve. They're basically the undisputed rulers of all of existence. They determine everything that happens, and they constantly watch everyone and everything. And so that is kind of a creepy dystopian idea that goes against the idea of free will and all of that. So I think it will be revealed that they are actually the villains. Maybe the organization itself is not evil, meaning the people are just doing their jobs, but they're basically slaves. They got created, I guess, cloned or genetically engineered to be working for them. So maybe they are not guilty of that. We do see that some of these soldiers are not really that nice toward people in different time periods. They totally don't care about their lives, and so they seem to be kind of immoral in many ways. So I guess they will be the bad guys in the end, and maybe Loki will be the hero who maybe is doing a good thing for the wrong reasons, meaning that he simply wants more power. He sees the power of the timekeepers and he wants it to himself. But if in the process he actually defeats these bigger villains and basically saves the universe, maybe it will be a good thing that he will achieve, even though he didn't just do it for good, he did it for selfish reasons. But at least it will achieve something good, so he will be like an anti-hero. And I'm guessing Agent Mobius will also be on the side of the good guys in the end, because he seems like a nice guy who does care about the people, unlike some of these other soldiers. So I guess maybe after he knows the truth, maybe he will turn against the timekeepers himself. So that's my guess of where all of this will be going. And I said in my previous review of episode 1 that I don't get why they revealed that they are chasing another Loki so quickly. Why not keep it for a surprise reveal scene, which will be more exciting that way? Instead they revealed it in the dialogue, and now I know why, because they planned a different surprise. So when they finally show us this other Loki, it's now a woman. So it's a different variant of Loki who was born a female, I guess. Maybe it's a genetic sibling of him, meaning that she still had the same parents maybe, but was simply born from a different sperm cell that impregnated the egg, and so it's a genetic sibling. This is the kind of stuff that I talked about in a lot of my videos talking about time travel. Whenever something big changes in the past before a person is born, then why should the same exact person be born? If the whole schedule of his parents was different, then maybe sex took place in a different time or in a different position or whatever, and so a different sperm cell will create a slightly different person who is a genetic sibling of the previous version and will have the same name because the parents will still give the same name to the person. So I guess that's how a time variant can look like a different person. I only wish they picked an actress that looks more like the actor who plays Loki, because all of what I just said will be more believable, but she looks totally different, so that annoyed me a little bit. And I guess all of this opens the door for what they are planning to do in the future, because I heard some rumors there's going to be movies about different timelines of the superheroes, of all the different actors who played them. Like there's going to be a movie in which all the Spider-Mans are teaming up together, meaning Tobey and Garfield and Holland will all be in one movie together as different versions of Spider-Man, and maybe they'll do stuff like that with other heroes as well. This is also a neat way to kind of recast the character with a new actor while still keeping it in the same continuity. So there's a lot of things that they can play with. So my guess is that by the end of the show, the sacred timeline will be split up into many different new timelines, which will all exist simultaneously, and that way they can do crossovers in the future with the different versions of all the characters and play around with it more. And so maybe this will explain all of that and allow for all of that. I also heard there's going to be a Doctor Strange movie, which will be called a Multiverse of Chaos or something like that. So this show might be setting up all of that kind of stuff. So they're basically saying, they said previously that there used to be a lot of timelines, and then there was some kind of war between all of them, and then the timekeepers created the sacred timeline, which they are protecting, and it's the only one that should remain. And by the end of the show, I guess all of that will be destroyed because they'll say it's a dystopia, there is no free will, whatever. And then once again, there will be a bunch of new timelines, and then they can do more movies or more shows with the different timelines, different versions of the same heroes played by different actors, and they can do whatever they want basically. So that can be exciting, even though that is a little bit of a problem, because if there's a multiverse, then nothing really matters that much as it was before, because if someone dies, it's no big deal. There's another Spider-Man, there's another version of each hero who happens to die, so just go to another universe and take someone else. And so it is a slight problem in my opinion, but they can explain it. Maybe it's a rare event when they can interact with another universe. Maybe it can only happen once in a while, they cannot do it all the time, so it will be mostly kept separate. So I think it's a mostly good idea to establish the multiverse. And so I guess what the show will do is that they will say that right now there is one timeline, but in the end of the show it will be broken up into many different timelines. The timekeepers are actually villains, and Loki will be fighting against them, maybe for selfish reasons, but at some point Agent Mobius will probably join him because he's a good guy, unlike some of these other guys. So I'm still hoping that the show will get better, so I will keep on watching, and especially since it will connect to other future Marvel movies, which I do enjoy most of these movies, by the way. I did not enjoy the TV shows as much as the movies because, most of the fun in the movies is all the action scenes and special effects, which the TV shows don't really have. And the story often is not strong enough to carry the show on its own, and so unless this show starts to have a better story, or some more awesome stuff that will be entertaining, then it will be a boring show. And so I will probably watch it anyway, but I will only make reviews of it if I have something good and interesting to say about it. So that's all I have to say about it for today. Let me know what you think, and we can discuss it in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.